Welcome back to the podcast team. So this week, what I want to talk about is legacy. And this is something I've been thinking about lately. Obviously, the older you get, the more you probably think about this. When you're young and you're trying to figure out who you are and sort of which avenue you want to go down in life, you're not really thinking about your lasting impression or your legacy that you're leaving behind, whether it be material things, which to me isn't, to be honest, part of a legacy. That's sort of, I mean, some people would think it might be, but in my opinion, it's not. For me, your legacy that you leave is like the ripple effect that you create in everyday life, and the actions that you take, the people you help, and by helping that person, they then carry on that, your legacy of helping people to help other people. And that's the ripple effect. So that's sort of my quick idea of legacy. It's sort of it's the impression of you that you're creating, more so than maybe a physical material thing, or like a statue of you in a town or something silly like that. To me, legacy is something that it's kind of hard to it's a hard one to articulate, because I think so few people actually think about it long term. I've always been a long term thinker. I've always thought, like, this is my goal now and I'll achieve it in 10 years' time. Whereas I feel like in today's day and age, everybody's like, now. I want this now. I want to achieve this now. I want everything to be right in my lap and done. Whereas that's not the reality, and that's not actually where the fulfillment comes from. It's the fulfillment comes from the process, and achieving those things. So I guess on the legacy front, I've always thought that my everyday actions and the things I do today and tomorrow and for the next however many years is my legacy. What people envisioned you as, and what you sort of left behind in their mind. There's an old saying that goes, your legacy isn't something that you, let me look, I had it here somewhere. Your legacy isn't what you leave for people, it's what you leave in people. As weird as that kind of sounds, but I think what that's getting at is what you leave in people, and that's like, the lessons that whether you taught someone something or you showed them a different path in life, which is much like what things like content and podcasts are great for. Just by someone listening to it can give them the motivation to go out and do something different with their life and change their path. And then that's, part of your legacy for sort of encouraging that. So there's a lot of different factors when it comes to your legacy, or like your life legacy, And I think the biggest one is exactly that. It's the difference that you make in someone else, in other people's lives. Like, at the end of the day, we're still tribal people. People are people, we're all running a similar race. We're all trying to do similar things at the end of the day. Like, at the deep core of it, most humans are pretty similar. Like, yes, we all come from different backgrounds and countries and places and ethnicities and religions and, all the things that make us different in that way. But everyday life is pretty similar for a lot of people in a lot of different countries around the world. Obviously, it's a lot different to people that are in like war-torn countries or third world countries, but places like here in New Zealand, most people are running a pretty similar race, doing a pretty similar thing. The majority of society is built around a certain structure of, go to school, get a job, buy a house, whatever. There's a playbook for life. And many people aren't thinking about their legacy because they're just battling. They're just out there trying to survive, going hard at their job or their career or whatever they're doing, trying to pay their bills, like they're just trying to worry about today and tomorrow. They're not thinking 20, 30 years into the future of sort of what they're building, which then they will leave behind. And like a perfect example of this is, the bro Joel Yukich, who I think that's how you pronounce his name, Yukich. He recently passed away, 36 years old, a couple of years younger than me. And he was a content creator doing hunting and fishing content and cooking, I guess, cook stuff. and he did a podcast with me randomly. We just G'd it up, did the podcast, and he got real deep and he opened up and like sort of showed what he's all about. And it was really nice. I really enjoyed it, other than the connection issues, because at the time he was on the Chatham Islands and I was here. So we did it remotely, obviously, but he had a real bad internet connection. So that was kind of an issue. But, perfect example. His legacy is that he was a good dad, great dad to his kids, who sadly now don't have a dad. And he inspired people. He inspired people to try something different or make change or, just have a crack at something, whether it's hunting and fishing and catching and cooking and all that stuff, diving, all the different things he did, or just whatever their interest was, the energy he brought, the jolliness that he had, the stoke he had for it. Like, that's his legacy. That's now it's come a lot sooner than it should have. But that's how people are going to remember him. He's got a whole online catalog of stuff that he's created, which will be there forever on the internet. And I'm not saying that stuff on the internet is or should be part of your legacy, but I'm saying that people envisioned him in a certain way. Like, they knew him and how he was. That's his legacy now. Sadly, as like I said, it came way sooner than it should have, but that's where he's at. And I don't know, it's hard to put into words because I'm still kind of upset about it, to be honest. It just came out all of a sudden. And obviously, having done a podcast with him, we kept in touch. And once you sort of do a podcast with someone that tells their story and what they've been through and opens up to you, you kind of stay connected. And that's one of the cool things about it. You make a lot of friends from it, from that. But that's a perfect example of someone who built a legacy based off his morals and, how he was as a person. And I just think that I get that so many people are just trying to survive. They're just trying to pay their bills, like I said, and just get through everyday life. But for me, I've always thought, like I say, like a bit long term. I wouldn't say always, not when I was young, I was just doing exactly that. But once you have kids and you obviously naturally think further to the future, it definitely makes you think long term. And like, if it doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. Because for me, having children is like the kick up the ass you need to be, A, get your shit together in life, to give them the life that you never had. And B, like, you're not only leaving a legacy in their mind, it's like I said, that trickle down or that ripple effect, the things that you do and the way that you are trickles down straight into your children. Like, they are a reflection of you and how you raised them, 100%. So as hard as it is to actually think about, what your legacy will be, I think it's important. And I think it's something that more people should be thinking about, because like I said with the bro Joel, it's like that, he's gone. That could be any of us. It could be you, it could be me tomorrow, 2 years, you just don't know. That's the volatile nature of being a human on planet Earth. We are not invincible. And for me, I know what my legacy wants to be, and that's helping people, and that could be as simple as helping inspire someone, like I talked about with Joel. Inspire someone to change their life and do something different and see life outside of, like I talked about earlier, that life structure that we seem to all fall into along the way. Not all, but a good percentage of society does. And it's not a very good way to live. Like, yes, you need money. Yes, not everybody is entrepreneurial or, wants to work for themselves. They are perfectly happy, like I've talked about in the past, just having a job. But the reality is, we've all seen the old timers who their legacy was like, oh yeah, they were a bit of a character and they worked at that same factory their whole life and then they died. It's like, Oh, okay. Like, is that what you want people to look back at on you one day and think? I certainly don't. You know, you want people to, and again, legacy is a hard one because it's much like the success. It's much like the success thing. You know, it's like everybody's idea of it can be completely different. Your legacy might just be that you were the person in your family. You know, you were the generation that made generational change and changed your family's trajectory going forward. You know, you might be that person. That might be your legacy. Like everybody's goals, you know, I guess it is like goals. Legacy is like goals because everybody's is different. But at the end of the day, I think the fundamentals of it should be that you leave a lasting impression on your peers, you know, your children, your friends, your family, and society as a whole. I was talking to my dad the other week and telling him how we were doing a bit of search history on our last name, Bright, and the history of it, where it came from, and all that stuff. And because of all the different things I do, you know, in the media space, you know, YouTube, photography, all this stuff, it came up and said, talked about the modern Brights who were based here in Monica, and it was referring to me and the wife and the kids. And I said, how funny is it that I'll be in the history books, you know? That's part of my legacy. That's part of what I've created through all the work that I've done. And like, yes, again, that doesn't mean anything, much like a statue in a town or whatever. But I feel like everybody should have the goal to like do something to leave that legacy, whether your goal is to have a statue in the middle of your hometown or just to have a legacy of people looking back on you and going, man, he really helped a lot of people, or he changed a lot of people's perspective or path, or he built this giant business, or did something, just did something that wasn't just the regular old life playbook of go to school, you know, get a good job, buy a house, retire and try and struggle your way on the pension. Like that old playbook, it's been around for generations and generations. And again, I'm not saying it's bad. If you're happy doing that, do it. But my whole job here is to motivate you, inspire you to go out there and do something different because you can do it. 100%. You can do anything you want. Remember, you are a hairless monkey that lives on a flying giant ball filled of lava, flying through infinite space. You know, like you've got to open your mind a bit as to what's possible and look outside of this rigid structure that whoever the powers are at B are, I don't even know, them, whoever everyone blames it on, have built for us. You know, like there's so much more out there for you to create and leave a legacy. And again, it could be anybody, anything. You know, name a hobby, name a sport, name a thing that you like doing, an art that you like to create. Like the possibilities are endless. But if you don't find, I guess, your purpose and think about like what you want to leave in the future, then you'll probably never create that legacy, you know. And that's another thing that I tell people. I'm like, in however many years' time, when you're in your old age, you know, when you're 70, 80 years old, like, what do you want to look back on? Do you want to look back and go, oh, yeah, you know, I had a pretty good life working at that same factory for the whole time, just doing the same shit every day? Or do you want to look back and be like, yeah, man, I really had a crack at all the things that I love doing. I really pursued them as hard as I could, and I changed people's lives along the way. You know, I know what I want to think about. I want to think about all the people that I impacted through this journey of life and who I helped change their outlook on life or their perspective or their path. It all happens so quick. And if you're young, once you have children, it's like you enter a different time zone, a different sort of time dimension. And you all of a sudden look back and go, wow, 10 years just flew by. And guess what? It only gets quicker. And I know when I'm 80 and however old, I want to look back and be like, look at all the shit I did. Look at what I achieved. Look at what I built. And again, it ties into the success thing. Everybody's got their different ideas of what success is. Some people think it's making tons of money. Some people think it's having all the fancy shit that you don't need. Some people think that it's changing lives. Some people think that success is just having time freedom to do whatever you want, or, being there to raise your kids every day. Everybody's success sort of moniker is different. So no matter what yours is, you've got to pursue it in order to leave and create a legacy. So that's a lot. But that's a quick rant on legacy anyway, guys. That's this week's topic. And hopefully that helps and gets you out there and gets you motivated. So you can look back in the future and go, I really gave it a shot. I really changed some lives, and I'm going to leave a good legacy behind, much like the bro Joel. I have to say rest in peace to him, because he was a bloody good bugger. He was a good dad. He was a hardworking man, and he inspired a lot of people with his content just by simply doing the things he loved and pointing a camera at it while he'd done it. Hunting, fishing, catching, cooking, all that stuff. The amount of comments and stuff I saw on all of his sort of memorial posts of people saying like how much they inspired him to do that and to have a crack. That was awesome to see. And it was, like I said, I definitely felt connected with him and stayed in touch with him after doing that podcast. And I was forever thankful for him to come on and open up and talk about his, all sorts of different stuff. So if you haven't already, go listen to his episode from, it was a while ago now, but that's this week's topic. We're talking legacy, guys. Get out there and create one. Because, like I always say, if no one else believes in you, I do. You can do whatever you want to do. Look at all the people that have been on this podcast in the past. They're all creating a legacy by having a go at the thing that they want to have a go at. And part of my legacy is being here, trying to encourage you guys to get out there and get after it, no matter what it be. So, in saying that, stop watching this. Go find what you want to do and have a crack. Going forward, we're going to do weekly episodes with solo casts like this, just me talking on different subjects each week, and obviously alternating in guest episodes when I can get guests, whether I do it remotely or in person. But we're going to stay consistent and bang these out every week for everyone to enjoy, if they enjoy listening to me ramble on about random things. But open that mind. Get out there and have a crack. See you next week, guys. Thanks for watching and listening. Appreciate all of you.